Talking a little high school football now as we switch gears and talk with the newest head coach at Macalester, James Singleton. We've had him on this program a couple of times in the past as the head coach of Fort Gibson. He joins us now as the newest head coach at Macalester. Coach, first off, thanks for taking some time this morning to join us on the program. And, we'll start the conversation here. What led to the decision to leave Fort Gibson now and take over this Macalester program?
Michael, how you guys doing today? Doing really well. It was just it was an opportunity to look at. When I look at it, of course, there's a lot of variables involved when a coach moves. Of course, obviously, a fit is always a big deal. I'm gonna have some opportunities there that I didn't have at Fort Gibson. So it was a very, very exciting opportunity, and Coach Homer offered me the job. Obviously, I had to dwell on it for quite a while. Fort Gibson was a great place for me. The administration did a wonderful job for me, really took care of me, and really invested into our football program. But I went ahead and decided to go to Macalester. Macalester is a very tradition-rich football town. Mm-hmm. Coach Pratt had done a wonderful job there the last 9 years. They've always been blessed with just tough kids, skilled kids. And then, and another thing, it was closer for me as far as being closer to home to my family. The majority of my family, they live in southeastern Oklahoma, and they like to drive up and support us and watch their grandbabies and their endeavors. So it puts them a little closer to action. So to me, it felt like a great fit and a good time. I know it was late, but Brian had the opportunity to go to Bentonville and this arose. It just like a great fit for me, and I'm going to take advantage of it.
Hey, James, Ben Johnson. I haven't talked to you in a little bit more than a day, so how are you?
Hey, Ben, how are you?
Good. One thing I didn't ask you yesterday, sitting down, how tough was that conversation with Gary Hendricks to let him know that you were leaving Fort Gibson? Because after being in Tahlequah for several years and getting to know you and everything, I know you're part of the community there in Fort Gibson. How tough was that for you to have to leave and tell Gary you were leaving?
It was really tough. When I came in there, our administration, they let me know that they were investing in our football program, new facilities, and it was a tough decision for me. They gave me my first head football coaching opportunity, and it was tough. The toughest thing yesterday was actually having to talk to those kiddos. It was
right.
Probably the most miserable 15 minutes I've had since I've been on this planet. I was very invested in those kiddos, and myself and my wife, we look at them as our children, as well as the three boys that we raise all the time. But I know they'll continue to have great success there. We feel like that program is one of the better programs of 4A now. The facilities are great. They've got talented kids coming. From what I understand, everybody on staff is planning on staying, which means you're going to have a great staff when you walk in. So it's a good situation. If it would have been a bad situation, I wouldn't have left. But I feel like it's going to be in stable hands, whoever takes it over, and it'll continue to grow and probably get better than what it is right now.
This is the OK Preps Roundup. We're talking with new Macalester football head coach James Singleton. Coach, your son JR spent 4 seasons starting for you as the Fort Gibson quarterback. He graduates next month. Did that make this decision a little bit easier, him graduating? Or, let's say the Macalester job opened up last year. Would that make the decision a little bit more difficult with him still having 1 year left?
Oh, without a doubt. There were some, I'd received some inquiries last year, and I adamantly turned those down immediately because it was a senior year. You don't want to do that to your child. My 2 other boys, my middle one, Bryce, he'll be a sophomore next year, and my youngest one he'll be an 8th grader. So with those guys being younger, they can still go there and still grow up being Buffaloes during their high school career. So, but definitely, if JR would have been an underclassman going into a senior year, I wouldn't have pursued it at all.
Now, you're going to take over this Macalester program, and they're no stranger to success, and it's a little different than what you took over at Fort Gibson 4 years ago. So let me ask you this. The difference in taking over at Fort Gibson and taking over now at Macalester, where the expectations are extremely high after they made it to the semifinals 4 straight years now, including a state championship appearance. back in 2013.
Well, it's obviously it's not a rebuild. When we went to Fort Gibson, it was it needed a lot of work to get to where it is today. Walking into McAlester and knowing Coach Pratt and his pedigree. I haven't even stepped on campus yet per se and watched them in action, but I'm sure they're doing everything right. All great coaches, and I definitely am not putting myself in a great category yet, but all good coaches, they all have the same blueprint for being successful. Offensively, they've been doing things a certain way there for a long time. Have had great success. One thing I'm not going to do, and I told the administration, there's probably not a need to come in and reinvent the wheel at McAlester.
Right.
It's to keep the wheel that's there going. Now, will there be some sprinkles or some things that we might change as far as identity-wise? Maybe a little bit, but to the typical coaching. The typical coach up in the stands, they're not going to see a big difference as far as what's been going on and what will be happening now. Of course, I've got to get down there and visit with those coaches and talk to them philosophically about as far as what things are going on down there. But I'm guessing that there's not going to be a need to change because I know they're doing things right, obviously because they're having great success.
Well, Coach, congratulations on the move. Always enjoy talking to you. Always enjoy talking to you at Fort Gibson. Now we'll make the move over to McAlester and enjoy looking forward to bringing you on more as the newest head coach of the McAlester Buffaloes.
All right, Michael. I appreciate you guys having me on today.
Thanks, James.
That's James Singleton, the newest head coach at McAlester. Congratulations to him and the entire Singleton family. Great hire by McAlester, which now opens up Fort Gibson, which, he talked about it. And, look, he's going to say, it's a good job. It's a program that's going to be in good hands. But at the same time, it is. It really is. Whoever gets that job, they're walking into some talent, especially you talk about the sophomore running back, going to be a junior. Chris Walker had just an absolute star season this past fall. So whoever takes over there is definitely going to have his hands full as far as expectations as well. A little different than what Singleton walked into about 4 years ago, and that speaks to what he did in his tenure at Fort Gibson.